Looking for one of the most unique skiing experiences in the country? Look no further than Michigan. Located almost 10 hours from Detroit at the tip of the Keweenaw Peninsula, Mount Bohemia, or Boho as it's commonly called, offers a no-frills ski area that claims to be for advanced skiers and riders only. But does best in the Midwest translate to best in the country? Well, in this video, we'll go through Mount Bohemia's overall mountain experience, and then we'll go through how the resort stacks up in our overall rankings. Let's jump right into it. Let's start out with Snowfall, and this is a place where Mount Bohemia has some unique advantages. Despite being in the Midwest, Boho offers snowfall far above its competition. Unlike competing ski areas, many of which would be lucky to see high double digits of snowfall inches each year, Boho regularly sees hundreds of inches of snow annually. This is in large part thanks to generous lake effect snowfall, as Lake Superior surrounds the ski area from nearly every direction, with the sole exception being the immediate southwest. Whenever the lake isn't frozen over and the wind is blowing, you can bet your bottom dollar it's snowing in the Keweenaw. So while you won't necessarily see a huge number of deep powder days, you will see a very consistent string of days with small bouts of snow. That being said, it is worth noting that after larger parts of Lake Superior freeze over, which usually happens in late February or March, the ski area does generally get colder and less snowy, with the lake effect largely subsiding. In the best years, seasons at Mount Bohemia can extend as far as May 1st, which is especially impressive given Boho's complete lack of snowmaking. But that lack of snowmaking and dependence on Mother Nature is a cruel double-edged sword. With much of the footprint south and west facing, the snow melts off quickly in the springtime and can get very icy after multiple days without snow. Unlike other Midwest ski areas that can get around icy slopes with top-notch grooming, Boho lacks grooming entirely. This means that if it's been a week or even a few days without snow, the whole area will have turned into what's essentially a skating rink. In the later springtime, the small minority of north-facing slopes stay open longest, though this area isn't immune from ice either. Mount Bohemia's lack of resiliency measures especially have consequences for its early season. Sometimes, the ski area doesn't open until late January, and February openings aren't entirely unprecedented either. Neither are mid-season closures in the event of especially awful natural conditions. Wind holds are also sometimes an issue, as strong winds off of the lake can close the lifts for the day. That being said, when these circumstances occur, the hill will typically still be open for those who want to earn their turns by hiking or skinning up. On the bright side, pending an absolutely terrible season, the snow in mid-season tends to be very consistent, and due to the isolation of the hill, there are stashes of snow that can stay for days or even weeks at a time if you can find them, when the weather remains cold. When it comes to getting up the hill at Mount Bohemia, there are two lifts, the frontside triple lift and the backside double lift. The triple lift is in the process of a phased rebuild, and the project will bring new towers and triple chairs for the upcoming ski season. Despite there only being two lower capacity lifts, lines at Mount Bohemia do move relatively fast, with occasional 15-minute lines building up on the busiest Saturdays, but ski-on lifts all but certain on weekdays. It's also worth noting that a significant number of Mount Bohemia's runs end at the road, where a group of shuttle buses run to bring people back to the main base. This bus system runs frequently and efficiently, making the lack of ski-out access less of an annoyance than one might think. It is worth noting, though, that on busy days, you may experience a few buses passing you by while you wait along the road after they fill up earlier on the route. If you want to get first dibs on a bus seat, runs that go to the furthest east, like those in the far east and middle earth areas, and where the bus routes start, so you're almost guaranteed a seat when skiing or riding those runs. Runs that end further west, like the extreme backcountry terrain, are later in the bus route, meaning you could be waiting as a few buses pass you by in that area. The buses themselves are pretty interesting as well, with different buses having different music themes. If you find yourself on the ABBA bus, for example, you might even find yourself witnessing live performances of ABBA songs. When it comes to finding your way around the mountain, you may be a bit confused your first time at Mount Bohemia. Boho has a very unique vibe in that the run names don't matter too much, and getting lost is often a part of the experience. The trail map also isn't the most helpful. Some different maps at the base area can help clarify some navigation, though these maps are a little out of date, and a few runs have been added that aren't shown on them. That being said, you will always end up either at a lift or the road to ride one of the aforementioned buses, so it's tough to be in a position where you can't get home at the end of the day. Since the buses on the road go back to the base, you're never more than a lift or bus ride from there. When it comes to Mount Bohemia's layout, the resort can effectively be thought of as a cone. From the summit, terrain goes down from every side of the mountain. The mountain is made up of the frontside lift lappable terrain, depicted by the Bohemia Mining Company and Bohemia Bluffs on the map, the backside lift lappable terrain, depicted by Bear's Den on the map, the north side, which consists of Haunted Valley, Outback, Pirates Cove, and Graveyard, the east side, which consists of Outer Limits and Middle Earth, and last but not least, the extreme backcountry, which is between the frontside and backside terrain. Each of these terrain zones has something different to offer, with cut mogul runs on the front side, long undulating cut runs on the backside, shorter and steeper glade runs on the north side, long stretches of woods to get lost in on the east side, and plenty of steep trees and cliff drops in the extreme backcountry. Just about all of the trees throughout the 400-acre area are skiable, though it is important to stay alert for unmarked rocks and cliffs, which can pop up just about anywhere on the mountain. The tree runs vary widely, from wider cut runs through oaks and maples on the frontside in Haunted Valley, narrower runs through cedar and hemlocks in Middle Earth, steeper runs through old-growth pines in the extreme backcountry, and other mixes of trees, tightness, and steepness throughout the area. If you're not a confident skier or rider, it's probably wise to think twice before booking a trip to Mount Bohemia. Beginner terrain doesn't exist at all at Boho, which the mountain makes abundantly clear with its No Beginners Allowed slogan. With the resort having no groomed runs, the snow is constantly either bumped up or rutted out in higher traffic areas, making the whole mountain not ideal for learning to ski or snowboard. Intermediate terrain is limited as well. The resort technically has 2 marked blue runs, though one of them, the Ghost Trail, is along Catwalk, and it also happens to be the easiest way down from the summit. If you're an intermediate skier looking for easier tree terrain, the Far East and Middle Earth glades are a lot more mellow, with meandering runs following small streams and gullies. Some of the Bear's Den terrain is also doable by intermediate skiers, though it will likely be bumped up short of an exceptional powder day. The frontside cut runs also have mellower slopes, but they are typically home to the largest moguls. Although the Prospector Blue Run does exist on the front side, some marked Black Diamond runs are actually easier due to this run's steep entrance. If you can't ski bumps or trees, Boho is not for you. To really appreciate Mount Bohemia, you should really be at an advanced or higher level of skiing or riding. All the terrain marked with a single or double Black Diamond should be doable for guests of this skill level. This all being said, if you're unfamiliar with the mountain, heed caution when in double black gladed runs. Unmarked obstacles such as stumps, logs, rocks, and even cliffs tend to pop up in these areas. For the biggest challenges at Mount Bohemia, guests will want to head to the extreme backcountry area. Here, all the runs are marked with the notorious triple black diamonds rating. Many people will scoff at that ostentatious symbol, but it really isn't much of an exaggeration as far as they go, as the area is bisected by a cliff line halfway down the runs. The center of the cliff band is where the largest drops are, where cliffs as tall as 40 feet can be found. Even if you drop the cliffs, we'd argue the hardest part are the landings, which are usually in very tight trees. Other than the cliffs, the extreme backcountry holds many steep glades with scattered rocks, logs, and stumps that make for some very playful terrain among the pine trees. There are a few other triple black diamonds scattered across the mountain that hold other extreme features such as cliffs ranging from 10 to 30 feet tall. With an effective vertical rise of almost 850 feet, Mount Bohemia is a bit of an anthill on the national stage, although regionally, this is actually competitive enough to give it the largest vertical drop in the Midwest east of the Black Hills of South Dakota. This means that while Boho has steep runs, they aren't the longest if you're used to skiing outside the Midwest. If you're looking for real cardio runs in your next destination ski trip, you may be a little disappointed with the Mount Bohemia experience. However, since both lifts are top to bottom, you will at least be skiing for the whole vertical in every run, rather than skiing smaller pods. For example, the vertical of Bohemia is taller than lifts such as Powder Seeker 6 at Big Sky, Mott Canyon at Heavenly, and Shooting Star at Stratton. On a clear day, the mountain aesthetic at Mount Bohemia impresses. From the top of the hill, you have an expansive view of the Keweenaw Peninsula, many small lakes, and the massive Lake Superior. You can see as much as 50 miles out across the lake, including down to the Huron Mountains to the south and Isle Royale to the northeast. While trees prevent the view from the summit from being truly 360 degrees, there are many areas across the mountain that have clear views of the Big Lake or the smaller Lac La Belle. If you're searching for an isolated skiing experience, you'll surely find that at Mount Bohemia, as many runs will find you feeling lost in the woods before you pop out on a cut run or at the road or maybe even someone's backyard. This all being said, The big downside to the views at Boho is the limited number of clear days, as the lake effect snow can bring cloudy conditions even on days when it's sunny further from the lake. For those seeking a novel experience, it's also worth noting that Mount Bohemia offers Little Boho, a distinct ski area accessible via a short hike from the back of the main parking lot. The hike or skin up to this 300 vertical foot area takes 15 to 30 minutes depending on your level of fitness and is generally flat. The runs end with bus service required to get out, which is less frequent than the rest of Mount Bohemia. But this jaunt can pay off, as Little Boho is home to some properly steep terrain, and it stays untracked if it's been a few days since the last snowstorm and temperatures stay consistent. Little Boho has a more fickle opening schedule than the rest of the resort, and under most circumstances other than what we just discussed, it's probably not worth the hike, but it's there if you want some extra terrain to check out with pretty much nobody on it. While not physically connected to Mount Bohemia, there's also a cat skiing operation run out of a place called Voodoo Mountain. This full-day experience runs on Wednesdays and Saturdays on some hills north of Mount Bohemia proper and costs less than $200. This is also held on north-facing terrain, and thanks to the limited number of people, powder stays untracked for weeks, although it is worth noting that the terrain is much less steep than the runs found on Mount Bohemia proper. While not for everyone, this is one of the cheapest full-day cat skiing operations in the country, and it allows for plenty of mellow powder turns. In order to get to Mount Bohemia, you need to be prepared for quite the journey. The nearest airport is in Hancock, which is around an hour away, and flights only go to and from Chicago, and are susceptible to getting canceled due to weather. The nearest larger airports are in Green Bay, which is 4.5 hours away, Milwaukee, which is 6.5 hours away, Minneapolis, which is 7 hours away, or Chicago itself, which is 7.5 hours away. The drive up to Mount Bohemia can get hairy at times due to weather, and visibility can drop to near zero at any time. In general, weather forecasts are not as accurate in the Mount Bohemia area due to the microclimate, so be prepared for anything. When it comes to things to do at Mount Bohemia besides skiing and riding, boy is it an experience. Directly off the ski runs are 2 bars, one of which is Christmas themed year round, 2 somewhat expensive areas to get food at, although they're still reasonable by destination ski area standards, multiple options for lodging, and the Nordic spa. The spa is included with a season pass and offers multiple saunas, a cold plunge, a steam room, an outdoor pool, and the largest hot tub in Michigan's Upper Peninsula. The hot tub has actually gotten so popular that oftentimes they have to have mandatory rotations on weekends. For lodging, Mount Bohemia offers slopeside cabins or yurts for groups, or you can also stay in the hostel on site. However, these accommodations are very sparing in their amenities. If you want to stay somewhere that doesn't feel bargain basement, a few inns and vacation homes do exist around the peninsula, but they're either sparse in quantity or over half an hour away. If you have an RV or camping setup, you can also grab a spot in the parking lot along with some locals who stay there all season, though if your camping setup is more conspicuous, you should probably reserve a space for $25. Overall, Mount Bohemia is one of the most unique destinations for skiing and riding on the continent. The mix of advanced and expert terrain at such an unassuming location with one of the most unique après scenes in the US makes any trip to Mount Bohemia a memorable experience, assuming you're skilled enough to ski it. And on a clear day, the lake views don't hurt the experience either. For pricing, one-day tickets start at $95, and you can't buy day tickets for Saturdays. Tickets are only sold online, but this is one ski area where it's actually expected you don't buy a day ticket, as the season pass for Mount Bohemia is one of the best deals in the country. For $109 plus fees, you get a full season pass to Mount Bohemia, including the Nordic spa, and a large nationwide reciprocal network. This reciprocal network does have some caveats, so make sure to check the Mount Bohemia website before you redeem these benefits. The Mount Bohemia season pass is only on sale for 1 week in December, and if you miss it, you're totally out of luck. If you are even thinking of skiing or riding at Mount Bohemia, do not forget to buy the season pass when it's on sale. Now let's go through how Mount Bohemia stacks up in our overall rankings, which are determined by the following 10 category mountain score. Mount Bohemia averages exceptional snow totals for the Midwest, although they still aren't anything special compared to out west, and the resort gets a 6 for snow. Mount Bohemia is not a reliable mountain for an in-advance trip given its lack of snowmaking and grooming, and closures are possible even during the core winter season, getting the resort a 2 for resiliency. Mount Bohemia claims a 585-acre footprint, but when it comes to the main mountain, the resort measures in at 415 acres from boundary to boundary, earning it a 3 for size. Mount Bohemia has some really cool advanced and expert features, including outstanding glade terrain, but terrain for skiers and riders below advanced proficiency is essentially non-existent, and the resort gets a 4 for terrain diversity. Mount Bohemia's steep slopes and copious obstacles make for a demanding technical footprint, but other North American mountains are still longer and more extreme, and the resort gets an 8 for challenge. Mount Bohemia's lift system is quite dated as they go, with slow, low-capacity chairlifts and buses required to get out of a significant number of runs, and the resort gets a 2 for lifts. Despite its remote location, Mount Bohemia can get fairly busy on weekends, largely as a result of its low capacity. Still, crowds are not usually too horrible, and the resort gets a 7 for crowd flow. Mount Bohemia is not the place for a fancy restaurant experience, and indoor lodges are non-existent outside the main base, getting the resort a 3 for facilities. Mount Bohemia's individual trails are kind of difficult to find, but you can still get pretty much anywhere from the top, and the resort gets a 6 for navigation. And finally, mountain aesthetic. Mount Bohemia showcases the best of Midwest alpine views on a good day, but perennial gray skies or low visibility detract from the experience, getting the resort a 7 in this category. These categories add up to an overall score of 48. Since we haven't really reviewed the Midwest so far, here are a few other quirky mountains to compare Mount Bohemia against. Boho has some clear highs and clear lows. Challenge and aesthetic clearly stand out for a resort that's not out west, while creature comforts like lifts, snowmaking, lodges, and beginner terrain are obvious weaknesses. Still, it's pretty crazy that a mountain in Michigan, of all places, is even able to be compared with other hills on a national scale. And for those seeking out a distinctive and eccentric experience, it's hard to find yourself disappointed. If you found this information helpful, be sure to like and subscribe, and hit the bell so you don't miss any of our content. And if you want to stay in the loop with everything Peak Rankings as we enter the summer season, be sure to check out our Circle community for informal trip discussions and meetups. For more information on Mount Bohemia and over 100 ski destinations around the world, check out peakrankings.com. And special thanks to our Peak patrons. See you for the next one.